What's up, everybody? Charlie Marlow here, live reaction to the college football playoff selection show. I'm watching it just while you guys are probably watching it as well. So they're just starting to unveil the matchups for the first round. All right, so let's get you caught up first. Obviously, Oregon, the 1 seed, Big Ten champs. Still crazy to call Oregon a Big Ten team. Champs in their first year, 13-0. The 2 seed, Georgia, obviously wins the SEC championship game yesterday versus Texas. So they're the 2 seed, 11-2. Boise State is the 3 seed, okay, 12-1. Now they're only the 9th ranked team in football, though. And then you have the other team with a bye, Arizona State. All right, Arizona State also gets the bye into the quarterfinal. Arizona State is the 4 seed, but they're the 12th ranked team in the country. So those first 4, okay, I think we pretty much knew those teams were in. Obviously, you didn't know if they were going to get a bye or not. And then now you have the first round. This is where it gets interesting, okay? So basically, Clemson wins the ACC championship. They're the 12 seed, Dabo Swinney's team, but they're still the 16th ranked team in the country. Now, Clemson will face Texas, okay? Clemson will face Texas in the first round, all right? So they're unveiling all of the seeds right now. Penn State is the 6th seed, all right? The Nittany Lions lost to Oregon last night in the Big Ten championship game. Notre Dame, 11-1, is the 7th seed. And Ohio State, my Buckeyes, are the 6th seed. They're the 6th ranked team in the country, but Ohio State is the 8th seed in the first ever 12-team college football playoff. So I'm just recapping here until we get more of these matchups. But Oregon, obviously, the 1, Georgia, the 2. You got Boise State, the 3, Arizona State, the 4. What's really interesting, though, is actually going to be the first round matchups, okay? So the game we know so far is the 12-5 matchup. That is Clemson versus Texas. The other games are going to include, there we go. This is what we wanted to see right here. Look, I'm going to be focused mostly on Ohio State here. This is the matchup that I wanted. It's going to be at home for the Buckeyes in the Horseshoe. It's Tennessee at Ohio State. Both teams 10-2. You talk about brands. I know it shouldn't be all about the brands, but passion, fan bases, and all that. This was the best matchup on paper, I think, for Ohio State to get, was versus Tennessee. Right? Indiana, that would have been a rematch. And then you had a school like Clemson, which Ohio State has played many times in the playoffs over the years. But I think, so Tennessee is the 9 seed. Ohio State is the 8 seed. Ohio State's actually the 6th ranked team, though, and Tennessee is the 7th ranked team. But Tennessee at Ohio State at the Horseshoe, that is going to be a pretty awesome game. That is the game that I wanted, folks. Jeff Castle jumping in and saying, "Good morning, Charlie." Good morning, Jeff. How you doing, buddy? Get your comments in. Get your questions in. This live stream brought to you by St. Louis Equipment, Triad Bank, St. Louis Lawn Care, Corner Butcher, and Chop House. As I said, get your questions and comments in. This is fun. I'm just kind of reacting live to the selection show on ESPN. And, of course, they milked it, as they should. They want to keep this going as long as possible for their ratings. I totally get it. Another game just announced. How about this for folks in the Hoosier State? An all-Indiana game is going to be Indiana at Notre Dame. Both teams 11-1. That's pretty cool. The Indiana Hoosiers at the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is the 10-7 matchup in terms of seeding. Notre Dame is actually the 5th ranked team. Indiana is the 8th ranked team. And getting back to Ohio State, which I'm going to focus most on. Look, I know they wanted to seed the teams properly, but don't you think also they wanted to avoid rematches? I don't think anybody wanted to see Ohio State versus Indiana again. So I love this matchup. Intrigue, Indiana Hoosiers versus Notre Dame. You have the Great Brand and the Fighting Irish. You kind of have the upstarts, Indiana Hoosiers. That's an exciting matchup on paper. We already told you got Clemson and Texas. That on paper feels like a really good matchup. And then Tennessee and Ohio State, two big-time college football brands. And then so there's one slot remaining. And you knew this was going to be coming down to SMU versus Alabama. Whoever plays Penn State, it's going to be in Happy Valley. And they're just waiting here on ESPN to release this. There was a report earlier, I believe Brett McMurphy did report on X that that SMU is going to get in and Alabama's not going to be in. So we'll see if that proves to be true. But ESPN is just, they're making us wait. And I get it. I totally get it. Again, this live stream brought to you by St. Louis Equipment, St. Louis Lawn Care, Corner Butcher in Fenton, Chop House, and of course, my friends at Triad Bank, triadbanking.com. And there it is, just released. SMU is the 11 seed. SMU is the 11 seed in the college football playoff. So SMU is in. They're 11-2. Alabama is out. What do you guys think of the bracket? I will go and read it all for you one more time. 1 seed, Oregon. 2 seed, Georgia. 3 seed, Boise State. 4 seed, Arizona State. And then the first round matchups. So these first round matchups, you have a Friday night game and you have 3 games played on that Saturday. I believe that's what, December 20th, 21st. Don't quote me on that. I got to look at the old schedule here. We skip a week. So you got, Friday the 20th, there'll be a night game, and then 3 games on that Saturday, the 21st. Which games do you think are going to get the top billing? I would think, I'm talking about the night games. For me, Ohio State, Tennessee on paper is the best matchup. Indiana, Notre Dame doesn't have as much cachet. To me, neither does SMU, Penn State. So to me, on paper, and you talk about brands and fan bases and all that, I feel like it's Ohio State, Tennessee, and I feel like it's that first matchup that was announced, Clemson versus Texas. Don't you think those would be the night games? I'm guessing one of those on Friday night, one of those on Saturday night. Let me know what you guys think. Again, the schedule is you have a game on Friday night, December 20th. This is a first-round game. You have 3 games on that Saturday spread throughout the day. It's going to be an absolutely awesome day of college football. So there you go. Alabama not in, 9-3. Strength of record rank was 9th. Strength of schedule rank was 16th. Their win-loss versus teams with a record above 500 was 5-1. Then you got, of course, Nick Saban now breaking it down. Of course, the former coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. What do you guys think? I think the committee got it right. And again, as an Ohio State fan, this was the matchup I wanted. I didn't want Ohio State versus Indiana. We'd already seen that game, right? Ohio State, Clemson, believe me, I do not like Dabo Swinney at all, but they've played so many times in the past in the playoff over the last 5 to 7 years. We've seen that a lot. I can't remember the last time Ohio State played Tennessee, but that's a game that when I was watching the seedings and the rankings and the mock brackets, that was the game I wanted, Ohio State versus Tennessee, and that's the game we're going to get. And I think that's just awesome. What do you guys think? I know only a couple of you watching right now. You're probably watching the show live as well. But I think the committee got it right. I don't think you can penalize SMU for the way they came back last night and made it a really close game versus Clemson and lost on a freaking bomb field goal at the buzzer, right? I'm going to go ahead and mute the television program here. But look, man, I think the good part is a lot of people wondered, me included, okay, no longer a 14 playoff. Will there still be as much excitement for a 12 team? Will we still argue as much about that 12th and 13th team that doesn't get in? as we did in the past about the 5th team and 6th team that didn't get in. And look, all this debate over Alabama SMU shows us that these games still matter, right? The 12-team playoff, there's still going to be great debates about the 12th team, the 13th team. Rivalry week still really mattered. I think it's fair to say some of these championship games didn't matter as much, right? But obviously the Clemson game mattered. It certainly mattered for seeding. Look what happened with Georgia. What if Georgia lost that game? Carson Beck injured. That could have changed things. Folks talking about a possible Florida State scenario. So there you go. John Rybolt jumping in. And he says, didn't know bracket was released today. Breaking. Yep. Bracket show right now. ESPN, the selection show going on as we speak. And I've read off the bracket a couple times here. But the breaking news, or the big story, obviously, is that SMU is in, Alabama is out. That was really the only question, was the the final team in, final team out. But then the matchups, of course, everybody wondering about what the matchups would be. And as an Ohio State fan, I just love the matchup. I don't think it's the easiest matchup. To me, the easiest matchup, if Ohio State could have gotten SMU, a rematch potentially with Indiana, a Clemson. I think Tennessee, obviously, strong program out of the SEC. I got somebody, I think I have a neighbor kid ringing my doorbell right now. My kids aren't here, so they'll have to go away there. It's all good. But I think the committee got it right. I love that it's Ohio State versus Tennessee, just big brands. That's a great game. I think that's going to be the game people focus on the most probably in the first round. What do you guys think? Is that fair to say? Ohio State versus Tennessee. Hopefully I'm not just being biased as a Buckeye fan, but that feels like the best matchup on paper. Indiana at Notre Dame is great with the Indiana connection there. Both schools, just a couple hours from each other there. You have Penn State, SMU. I think if you're Penn State, you probably like that draw very, very much. You certainly could have played some better opponents there. Clemson and Texas. Tell you what, Quinn Ewers didn't look great yesterday when I was watching that game in the second half. I don't know a ton about Clemson, but again, two big brand programs, Clemson and Texas. Jeff Castle weighing in. I like it. There will always be schools that are mad about not getting in no matter how many spots there are, or 12. Agreed. John Rybolt, scare them away. Yeah, the kid's at my door. I think she's gone now. It's all good. But there you go. I'm not going to go super long on this video, folks, but let me know. What do you think about the matchups? I think they got it right. I mean, a 3-loss team, you knew this was going to happen, but if you're Alabama, 3 losses, you can't be that mad, right? Anytime you lose 3 games, very good chance you're not going to make a 12-team playoff. I'm not saying SMU is better. I'm not saying SMU would beat them on a neutral field, but this is kind of the way it is, folks. It happened with 4 teams. It's going to happen with 12 teams as well. These great debates are part of it. Let's see. Keith Adams says, SMU second half got him in. Hey, Alabama fans, losing to two teams that weren't bowl eligible until the last week of college football doesn't help at all. Talking about what? Vanderbilt. Is it Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, I believe, the losses you're talking about for Alabama? Yeah, also not losing to great programs this year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. This live stream brought to you by Triad Bank, triadbanking.com, St. Louis Lawn Care, St. Louis Equipment, which is stlmowerrepair.com, and also Corner Butcher and Chop House. Let me just tell you real quick. First of all, Triad Bank, best thing I ever did for my commercial lending needs. My rental property business was switching all my loans from a big national bank that doesn't care about me to a great local bank over there in Frontenac. It's Triad Bank. And St. Louis Equipment, you see the logo right there, folks. Okay, snow blowers. It's that time of year, right? Okay, they got plows, salt spreaders, snow blowers. You can get your snow blowers, your equipment repaired as well. They sell bulk and bagged salt at the Afton location, 8601 New Hampshire Avenue, Afton, Missouri, 63123. And at the O'Fallon location, which is 509 Sondern Street, O'Fallon Mo, 63366. That location, very convenient, right off Highway 70. I checked the website, they have these badass snowblowers. It's the Arians brand. They sell them at all 3 locations. St. Louis equipment. You see it right there. Snowblowers, snow blowing equipment. They got it all right now. Full line of residential and commercial snowblowers. So boom, there you go. Always help me support the sponsors, please. Here we go. John Rybolt says, what chance do you think Ohio State wins the championship? I think Ohio State has as good a chance of about anybody. I do wonder, though, maybe this is a year where Oregon is just the best team. And look, if Oregon is truly the best team, they beat Ohio State. They beat Penn State, obviously, last night. Scored a ton of points, gave up a ton of points against Penn State. But maybe this is the year where there's truly one great team, and that's Oregon. If that's not the case. Look, obviously, Georgia with Beck out, although Stockton looked pretty good. I have to think, I mean, if you're looking at the bracket right now, to me, I think Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, to me, those are the teams I think that have the best shot. To me, Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, not necessarily in that order, but I'm not buying Boise State to actually win it, not buying Arizona State to actually win it, not buying Indiana to actually win it. I mean, could Notre Dame, could Texas? Texas didn't look good to me last night. So I think Ohio State has as good a chance as just about anybody, unless it's a runaway with Oregon. And maybe that's the case. And you know what? Oregon has been the best team all year long, undefeated, beat Ohio State, beat Penn State yesterday. I'd have no problem whatsoever with Oregon winning the national championship in their first ever year in the Big Ten. Let's see. Keith Adams saying, I'd like to say thanks, Georgia. Don't let an upstart in them SEC take your crown. Talking about Texas, not letting Texas win the SEC in their first year in the same way that Oregon did win the Big Ten in their first year in the conference. Why Notre Dame 7th? Notre Dame 7th. I haven't followed Notre Dame that much. I like that matchup just for the Indiana factor. Both schools from Indiana. I think that's on paper very interesting. I would imagine Notre Dame wins that game, but you never know. You never know. I'm a Big Ten guy, always have been. So I'll be rooting for Indiana, but I would bet Notre Dame in that game. So there you go, folks. What do you think? Buckeyes versus Tennessee Volunteers. Love the matchup. Love the brands. Love that it's at the Horseshoe. Can't wait for that one. That's got to be a night game on that Friday night or on that Saturday night, either December 20th or December 21st. That was the game I wanted as a Buckeye fan. I didn't want Indiana with the rematch. I've seen Clemson forever, although I love the chance to beat Dabo Swinney. I'm not a Dabo Swinney fan whatsoever, but Ohio State, Tennessee, Big Ten versus the SEC, two brands. I mean, Rocky Top versus the Buckeyes. What else can you ask for the college football playoff? I absolutely love that matchup. I'll take a couple more comments from you guys. What do you think? Questions, comments? And I know a lot of people are still watching this show, so it's all good. Don't have a ton of people watching live, but hopefully a lot of people will watch this once I finish and they're done watching the college football selection show themselves. I'll read it down one more time. Oregon, the 1 seed, Georgia, the 2 seed, Boise State, the 3, Arizona State, the 4. They all get byes into the quarterfinal. And then you have the matchups, Texas versus Penn State, Notre Dame versus Indiana. That game at Notre Dame. Ohio State hosting Tennessee, and Penn State hosting SMU. Those are the games in the first round that we skip a week. So not the week of the 14th next week. We skip that week. And then right before Christmas, that Friday and Saturday, you have 4 really good college football playoff matchups. Those are called the first round games. Let's see. Keith Adams, hey, Charlie, I guess Ohio State winning a natty eases the pain of Michigan. Well, yeah, but also Ryan Day may need the natty to stick around, right? I mean, look, if you're going to lose to Michigan every year and you have the rosters that Ohio State has under Ryan Day, I know it's a high standard. You might say it's an unfair standard, but Ryan Day probably has to win a national championship once a decade especially with the rosters he's had. Again, if he's going to lose to Michigan. If you were 3-2 versus Michigan and not 1-4, Ohio State fans would be a little more patient with not winning the national championship. But that's the expectations at a big-time program like Ohio State. Here we go. McLovin says, Michigan 13, Ohio State 10. Yes, I remember. Thank you for reminding me. Oh, no. Let's see. Nathan Simpson. SMU being over Clemson after losing to them yesterday is absolutely ridiculous, although I'd rather play Texas than Penn State. Yeah, well said. All right, folks, I'm going to shut her down. Quick video, 21 minutes. Appreciate everybody watching. Thank you to my sponsors, Triad Bank, triadbanking.com. You got St. Louis Equipment. You see it right there, stlmowerrepair.com. Told you earlier about all the great snow blowing equipment, Ariens brands they have. You have St. Louis Lawn Care, Corner Butcher over there in Valley Park, which is in the same building as Chop House, the restaurant where you can get a great lunch, great dinner. And then, of course, Corner Butcher West out there in Ellisville as well. Let's see. McLovin says, if Ohio State played football like they run their mouth. Yeah, that's true. I can't really argue with you there. Thanks, Charlie, from Jeff. My neighbor kid's back ringing my doorbell, so I got to go. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. Can't wait for the college football playoff. Ohio State versus Tennessee. The matchup I wanted, the matchup we got. Thank you very much. Do you hear this? You're going to have to deal with the neighbor kid ringing my doorbell nonstop. All right, I got to go get that. See you guys. Thanks, and thank you again. Please support the sponsors, St. Louis Equipment, St. Louis Lawn Care, Triad Bank, Corner Butcher, and Chop House there in Valley Park, and Corner Butcher West. See you later. End stream. End stream.